we're going to do a couple recipes, and I think hopefully I will have time to throw in a bonus third recipe for you today. And they're focused a lot on olive oil that I went shopping for this week around the county. So first, I'm going to introduce the olive oils to you. So we'll do one at a time here. I have 4 different kinds, and these are all made in Solano County from local olives. All right, so one that I've used a lot in past classes, I'll kind of hold these up, I see they're cut off a little bit, is Soul Food Farm. And so Soul Food Farm is in Pleasance Valley. It's run by a woman named Alexis. She also has lavender, and she has eggs, and she's organized a CSA since COVID-19 started to help bring together some products from some surrounding farms. So you can also find her olive oil there. She has 3 different kinds of olive trees on her farm, and I'm not sure if this is a blend or if it's one of the 3. It's Frantoio, Lecchino, and Pendolino olive trees that go into her oil. So yeah, it's a good basic oil, and I use it for a lot of different vinaigrettes and things. The next one is Il Cocuzzolo, which is produced by Sky Ranch. And Sky Ranch is located on a high up ridge that's between Napa and Solano counties. And it's about 2,000 feet above sea level. So they have vineyards up there, and they also produce wine. And then this is their olive oil. This is just one variety. It is 100% Frantoio olives, and I found it to be very smooth, very smooth and mellow, kind of an olive oil. So that's theirs. Here's my next one. This is Seville Groves. Seville Groves they have a lot of olive trees around the Sassoon Valley area, and they also have a retail store in Benicia. They used to have a retail store around Fairfield, but I don't think that's not there anymore. So they have, the tube I have here today is a Sassoon Valley Tuscan Estate oil, which is this one. And it's from, obviously trees around Sassoon. And then this one is called Early Harvest Mission. So the Mission trees are also another popular varietal here in the county. And then last but not least, I have 2 different oils from Il Fiorello. Il Fiorello is, they have their trees, so I guess I would call it a farm, and they also have a retail store and a fantastic space for events. And they are located near Mancus Corner. The 2 that I have here today, this one is called Athena's Blend, and I'll be using this one for the Italian Salsa Verde. It has a nice peppery flavor at the end. And then the other one I have is an Arbequina. So this is, again, a single varietal oil of Arbequina. So, and their oil, these guys, as well as Seville Groves, they tend to enter them in lots of competitions, and they've all won many awards. The Seville Groves is known for its high polyphenols, which is very beneficial for your health. So there's a lot more on their respective websites. Allison, actually, maybe I'll have you share the page. I just made a really quick list of the names of these olive oil farms and companies and their websites. So we'll go ahead and share this, and then you're welcome to check them out. A lot of them are doing, mail order, so, or phone order and then pick up at the door. That's how I got the Il Fiorello and the Sky Ranch, and actually all of them. So anyway, I encourage you to go check it out in Solano County. Today, I'm going to be working with, we'll use the Seville Groves oil. I think I'm going to use the Tuscan Estate one. And I'm also going to be using the Il Fiorello. I'm going to use the Athena's Blend for that, for one of our recipes. And then I'm also going to use the I'm going to use the Sky Ranch oil. I've used the Soul Food Farm one a lot in previous classes. So we're going to feature the other 3 today. All right, so that's our olive oil. And so the recipes that I chose for today are pretty simple, straightforward. The reason I selected them is because they are quick, easy sauces that go really great with grilled items. So we are now in summer. We had a heat wave. I didn't feel like turning on my oven a few days ago. And so we're all grilling now. And the other good thing I like about these sauces is that it doesn't require you to turn on your oven or your stove to make them. So they're a little bit like pestos and kind of olive oil based sauces. And again, they're pretty easy. Also, I wanted to feature these because this weekend, the Pleasance Valley Ag Association is highlighting honey, olive oil, and wine as part of their virtual open farm days. So again, check it out, see what they're up to. There's going to be a lot of stuff on their website, virtual tours and things from the farms. Okay? All right. So first, we're going to do the Moroccan Chermoula Sauce. I'm going to put this down here where I can see it a little better. This is my go-to sauce for all kinds of stuff. Here's the recipe. Thank you, Allison. Chermoula, sometimes it's called Charmoula, spelled C-H-A-R-M-O-U-L-A. So it's a sauce used a lot in Middle Eastern recipes and Middle Eastern culture. It's typically used to flavor fish and seafood, but I find it goes fantastic with other things, including like roasted potatoes, grilled chicken. I would even probably stick it on like eggs, to be honest with you. So it's super easy and quick to throw together. All right, so first we're gonna do some lemon juice. I grabbed some lemons off the tree. They're kind of pretty big. All right, we'll just assemble this here. Let me grab a whisk. Oh, and I'm a little missing a few things here today. Hold on. A knife would be good. Okay, and my sister. All right, so first the lemon juice. We're gonna put in a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Grab my other stuff here too. All right, which is 4 tablespoons. And I'm using Meyer lemons today, but you can use any lemon that you have on hand. The Meyers tend to be a little bit more mellow and not as tart. But you can use whatever you'd like. And sometimes I even substitute lime juice if I want to make this sauce have a little bit more of like a Latin flavor to it. I'll do some lime juice, but originally it would be with lemon. So there's my lemon juice. Then I'm going to add a couple of garlic cloves. Here. I'll probably need more lemon juice as the class goes on. So 2 cloves garlic. And I'm going to mash up the garlic cloves a little bit. So first I want to take the papers off. Just going to whack it. And then I cut off the root end, which will release the paper. Do that again. That way you're not trying to like pick all of the little tiny paper bits off. My scraper, one of my favorite kitchen tools. Okay, so I'm going to chop this up a little bit first. And then I'm going to add some kosher salt, and I'm going to just make a little bit of a paste with my knife. Okay, so here's my 2 cloves. I'm kind of roughly chopped. And now I'm going to grab a couple pinches of kosher salt and sprinkle it on. And then I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to push with this hand down and scrape. And so the salt kind of acts like an abrasive, and it's going to break down my garlic a little bit more, so it's a little bit more like a paste and not, so I don't have these big chunks of garlic in my sauce. If you're short on time, by all means, just throw this in like, your garlic in like a food processor or a little mini chopper or whatever you have, that's fine too. But I thought I would show you kind of an alternative and another method of what you can do. Okay, so there's my garlic. In. Grab my scraper here. Okay, then we have a 1/2 teaspoon cumin and a 1/2 teaspoon of paprika. There's my paprika. This is ground paprika and ground cumin. And then I'm also going to need a little bit of cayenne. there's the cumin. Here comes the paprika. You can use a regular paprika. You could also do a smoky paprika. There's some Spanish paprika out there, which is really great. That would give you a really interesting kind of, different complex flavor to this. I just put in a couple shakes of cayenne pepper. So those are my herbs. And then I also need a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm using kosher salt today, which is typically what I always use actually. And then we have 2/3 of a cup of the olive oil. Okay, so let's see, for this one, I think I'm going to use, the Sassoon from Chive, Sassoon Valley. Oh, it's one of these slow pouring things. I wonder if I can take this off. Yep, there we go. So it seems like a lot of olive oil, but the spices and the lemon juice will help to kind of cut it. Okay, get everything in there? Yeah, 2 things here. Okay. All right, so what I have here is I've got the water-based items, which are the lemon juice and the garlic and the spices, and I'm just gonna drizzle this in. And this is not gonna totally emulsify because we're not adding mustard or anything else like an egg yolk or things like that that would help it to bind together. But by drizzling it in gradually, you will kind of help it along to stay together so that it's not completely, oil and lemon juice. There's that. Last but not least, we're going to add our cilantro. And I believe I need a half of a cup. Check there. Yep. Okay. So for that, we'll use a dry measuring cup. And for this type of a recipe, I'm not going to bother to go through and pick off the leaves. The stems that are here are kind of the, more tender stems from the top of the plant. And there's a lot of flavor in the stems. So I'm going to go ahead and just chop all of this up. Make noise. And again, this is just kind of rough chopped. You don't have to make this too fine. I kind of like it with some texture from the herbs. Okay, that looks about right. We'll throw it into the measuring cup just for fun. Yep. Okay, there it is. My half cup of cilantro. That goes in. And I'm just gonna get the rest of all this yummy herb into there. Okay, and then we'll give it a stir. Just to kind of get the cilantro mixed in there. So you can also see it's not, I wanted to add the olive oil before the cilantro because to whisk with the cilantro in there and then add the oil would be a little complicated and get all over my whisk. So you want to, again, combine your oil and your water-based things first and then just stir the herbs in at the end. Okay, and that's it. So that's our chermoula. And then from here, you can taste it. I'm sure it has plenty of salt. I've kind of made this a gazillion times. This is kind of my favorite thing to put on grilled chicken, and again, I think it would be fantastic on like potatoes, roasted potatoes, or even potatoes that you do on the grill and some foil or whatever. So, okay, so there's my chermoula. I'll set that over here. All right, next on the list, clean up a little here. All right, next is the Italian Salsa Verde. So first I will walk through those ingredients and then we'll put it together. For this one, I'm going to use my food processor. I'll have to do a little rearranging here. It's kind of like the idea of a pesto for this one. And Allison's going to show the recipe there too. All right, so tons of herbs in this one. You have an herb garden growing. Thank you, Allison. Now is the time. This is a fantastic recipe for all those herbs. So let's just go through this. So the first thing we have are some anchovy fillets. And these were just fillets that were packed in oil. The step with the anchovies is to just soak them in a little bit of water. This is going to help get the oil off and just clean them a little bit. So I have 4 fillets right there. And next are capers. So there's a couple options for capers out there in the market. These are brined in like a vinegar and salt solution. Another type of caper that you might find out there are salt cured capers. So if you end up with the salt cured ones, you're going to need to soak them in water for about 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how much salt is in there. And then you're going to rinse them off. So obviously the salt cured ones are going to be much saltier. And the amount of time that you soak them depends on really how much salt you need in the recipe or want. So for today, I'm using the brined capers. So all I'm really going to do with these is just measure them out and then give them a quick rinse, because I just want to rinse the brine off. If I can get the jar open. It's been open. There it goes. Okay, so I need a 1/4 cup of the capers. So I'm just going to do this right here, and I'm going to put my strainer over a bowl and just measure it in here. So capers are very, they can be very flavorful and a little bit pungent. So, for this particular recipe, I'm going to use one of the olive oils that's a little more peppery. It's got a little bit more robust of a flavor. All right, let me rinse these really quick. All right, I'll just leave those here to drain and get the water out. I have garlic cloves again, 3 garlic cloves. If you want to put in 4 or 5, that's fine. It's up to you. However much garlic you like. I love garlic, so maybe I'll put in a little more than 3. I think we'll do 4. I have 4 that are separated out here, so let's get those. And I'm going to be putting all this into a food processor, so I'm not going to bother chopping the garlic because it's really easy to get the garlic chopped if it's the first thing we add to the food processor, and if I drop them in while it's running. So I'll show you how I do that. I'm just going to take the skins off like I did earlier. By the way, if any of you guys are subscribers to Terra Firma, I noticed that they are offering large braids of garlic. They normally supply them to some restaurants, I think including Chez Panisse, if I remember correctly, for their Bastille Day celebration. And of course, I think that got canceled or postponed, or I'm not sure what's happening, but they now have large braids of garlic for sale as add-ons, if any of you guys are subscribers to that CSA. And I believe what the owner was saying was that the braids last a lot longer than if you have them individually. And I'm not sure why, but it'd be a great way if you use a lot of garlic. It's a good way to have some. Okay, so there's my garlic. Now we have a bunch of herbs. So I kind of went through my herb garden. I have a little bit of this I had to buy at the store. But here's the basil. So I need about, I think, 1/2 cup of basil. For the basil, I will take the leaves off. I'm not going to keep the stems for that. And I have a couple different kinds of basil growing. 2 of these are the standard Italian basil that you would use for pesto. Another one of them is called it's almost like a lettuce leaf basil, so it's a little milder, or you could even just throw it into your salad and eat it straight with your lettuce leaves. But mostly what I have here is the Italian. Okay, I'm about there. A good way to store the basil, and I think I've talked about this before, is you just plop it into a glass of water as if it's a cut flower from your garden. And so I did that with one of these sprigs about 4 or 5 days ago, and it's held up really well. So, and I do not have air conditioning in my house. So even through the hot days we had this week, it survived. Okay, let's see where I'm at here. I need I'm just gonna eyeball this. So half of a cup of the basil. I'm just going to kind of loosely pack it in. So I need about that much. I probably don't need all of it. I'm just going to start putting all this into this bowl here. All right, this is extra. Actually, we'll throw these other loose leaves in. Okay. Then we need half a cup of cilantro and a half a cup of the Italian parsley. So again, here's my cilantro, and I'm not going to bother to disconnect all these little leaves. I'm going to kind of loosely pack that in. That's about half full. Okay, done. Parsley. This one I think I will go through and at least get some of the top parts disconnected, because some of these stems are kind of thick. This parsley is from my garden. The parsley is slowing down about now. It's starting to get a little hot for it, I think, and so it was starting to go to seed. So I trimmed most of it back, but there was a few sprigs left here. Okay. We're almost there. I'm going to put in a little bit more. That's like a starting up a parsley flower there. Okay. Okay, and again, I'm just kind of loosely packing all of this in, and it's okay if you have some of the little tender stems from the top of the plant. All right, there's the parsley. That's out of the way. Okay. We have a half of a cup of arugula, which I have here. Arugula is pretty peppery, so it's up to you if you want to put that quantity or less in. I think it's going to go really good with this olive oil I'm using, so I'm going to add all that in. Okay, got a little extra there. All right, I'm going to go through the rest of the herbs and we'll go back and add some of the other spices. So next on the list we have tarragon, and I need a quarter cup of that. So tarragon is a pretty distinct flavor. For this, you do want to use the leaves, not so much the stems. It's used a lot in French cooking. It almost has a kind of almost like a licoricey kind of flavor to it. And this was not from my garden. I had to get this from the store. And I may have a little bit less than a quarter of a cup. I may not have all of it, but you know, I'm not sure you want to do too much of the tarragon. The herbs in this recipe where you're only putting in a quarter of a cup, for those, you know, I would kind of ease back. They're a little bit stronger and will definitely overpower the sauce if you do too much. Okay. So there's the tarragon. Yep, that's about right. The pastry scraper, by the way, one of my favorite tools, also called a bench scraper. All right, last but not least, we have two more things here, chives and sage. Again, a quarter cup of each of those things. So, you know, sage also can be rather strong. And I'm just going to pull the leaves off of those. I also got this from my garden. So far, it's alive. I haven't killed too much yet. You know, sage leaves are good fried in a little bit of oil, by the way. If you want to use them as a garnish, they go great with white beans. You know, some fish works well with. Okay, and then chives. You could use garlic chives or regular chives. For the chives, because this is going to be a little crazy trying to measure this, I will chop these up a little bit, just into some larger pieces. Just so I can see what I have here in terms of quantity. That amount right there looks right. Set that aside. Okay, there it is. I'm going to scoop up all the extra stuff here that ends up on the board and add it to the bowl. Okay. And, you know, if anybody needs a source for herbs, I had Rose Laval from Morning Sun Herb Farm here last week talking about lavender. She has just about every kind of culinary herb you could ever imagine, so I highly recommend visiting her nursery. She's on Pleasant Valley Road up by Vacaville. Okay, so then we are going to use the blend Il Fiorello Athena's Blend oil. So I'll get that ready here, and my garlic, and then the last thing we're going to add are some red pepper flakes, and I'll measure that out once we start processing everything. Okay. Get this thing set up here. All right. So first, we're going to do the anchovies, capers, and garlic. And first we want to deal with the garlic. So I'm going to turn it on and then drop it in while it's running, and it chops it up really well. Next are the capers and the anchovies, which I also need to drain. We don't want to keep the water that you've been soaking them in. And we're just going to make like a little bit of a paste out of these three things first, and then we'll add the other ingredients. Okay, looks good. Grab a little spatula here to scrape the sides down. I'm going to run it just a little bit more. I see an anchovy that didn't quite make it. All right, now in goes everything else. So we've got all of the herbs and the red pepper flakes, and then the oil. So if this is too much for your food processor to handle all at once, you can do it in batches. So I'll do that. This is a pretty large one. I think this is like 11 cups, but it's, so you want to just kind of pulse it before you add the oil in, and it'll break that down. Now we'll add the next batch. There it is. All right, next is our red pepper flakes. I need about 1/4 teaspoon. And of course, if you like spicy, you can add more. However, you may not taste all of the other ingredients if you add too many pepper flakes. All right, and I think all we need is the oil. And so for this one, I'm using an entire cup of olive oil, which seems like a lot, but it's, again, it's kind of like a pesto. Okay, let me make sure everything's in here. We got the anchovies, capers, garlic. There's so many herbs. Basil, cilantro, parsley, arugula, flakes, tarragon, chive, sage. Yeah, okay, we're good. So then after I add the oil, then we'll add salt, and we will be done. All right. Give it a little scrape. So the amount of salt is going to depend, again, on your capers, how salty they are. So I'm just going to add like a pinch or two first and then taste it. And then make adjustments as necessary. That's pretty good. Pepper would be good. Well, no, I don't think I want to add black pepper, actually. The olive oil, it kind of gives a nice peppery flavor to it. So I think this is good to go. Okay. There is that one. I'll pour it out into my bowl here. Let's see. So the consistency is very much like a standard basil pesto, but this has a lot more depth to it and complexity from the anchovies and all of those different herbs we put in, and of course the peppery olive oil. There it is. Looks kind of ugly on the screen, I must say, but it looks nice. It looks like a nice, vibrant, bright green from my perspective. So, all right. Okay, we're doing pretty good on time. So let's do our third thing. Thought I would do a little bonus recipe for you today. This is a citronette, kind of a spin off of a vinaigrette, but we're going to do a citrus with the olive oil instead of a vinegar with the olive oil. So I need one more bowl here today. Grab. I'm going to use this one. Okay, so this is, again, very straightforward. I need a quarter cup of honey. I'm going to rinse this out. Grab another little spatula thing. Okay, so we've got the honey and the lime juice, and again, we're going to add the everything but the olive oil first. I think what I have is what I need, so I'm just going to shovel it right into this bowl. And then for this one, we're going to use lime juice. And the recipe says orange zest, but my orange tree is done. So I'm going to use a little bit of lemon zest from this last lemon here in this recipe. And this is just a really kind of nice, light, almost like a little dip that you could use for vegetables or even fruit. Thought it'd be kind of nice for summer, something a little different. Okay. Honey. And then for my limes, I need a quarter cup of lime juice. I'm going to roll these a little bit to release the juices. And I'll use my little measuring cup thing here. Okay, good. These are somewhat juicy limes. There might be some limes left on the trees out there these days. So if you have any lingering citrus, there's another way to use them up. Okay, there it is. There goes my lime juice. And I'm going to kind of move this around in here because the honey needs to dissolve a little bit. And so the acid from the lime juice is going to help it along, but it might take a few minutes. So I'm going to kind of give it a little stir to try to integrate the honey with the lime juice before we add the oil. It's getting there. Okay. All right, next on the list is the zest. So I'm going to use this microplane. These are great for zesting. They work really well if you need to grate ginger. Another good tool. And I don't need a whole lot, just a quarter teaspoon. So that's about right. Scoop it up. Okay. In it goes. All right, and then for this one, I'm going to use the Sky Ranch olive oil, which is the Grantoyo single varietal oil, and I need a half a cup. You'll notice that this one is in a little tin as opposed to a jar. So Lee Perry is the owner of Sky Ranch, and I actually had the pleasure to meet him when I picked up the oil. And, you know, he was just kind of reiterating that you want to store your oils away from heat and away from light. And so hence the tin, because light won't penetrate this as much as it might through a glass bottle, although usually the glass bottles are tinted, they're dark, so that's going to help filter the light away as well. So, you know, again, all of these oils, these are really meant for vinaigrettes and for doing, you know, finishing oils or, you know, drizzling on things, putting it in products and recipes that are not cooked. Because what happens is when you start to heat the olive oil, you know, it starts to change the molecular structure and it starts to break it down, and then you lose some of the health benefits, and you also start to lose some of the different flavors that are there in the profile of the oils. So, you know, I would store these definitely in a dark, cool place. If you have kind of a pantry, it's always a little cooler toward the floor of my house than it is towards the top. So if there's a place to put them in a lower area, that would be recommended, just so they can stay cool and away from heat. So, okay, so I think we're ready to mix in this last thing, and then we'll add a little salt and pepper. Whoop, splashing everywhere. I'm kind of waiting for my honey to dissolve. I think we're a couple sticky spots, but we're good. Okay, and I'm just going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this. Let's see, I do need pepper. Let me grab the pepper. So just a note on salt and acid. If you have something, a dressing, a sauce, whatever, and it's a little too salty, you can usually add some acid to help counteract that and fix the problem. Same the other way around. If you've got something that's kind of acidic, when you add a little bit of salt, that will help cut the acid flavor, and it'll balance those things out a little bit more. Okay, and that's that. We'll give a little taste of that one. Yeah, I can kind of picture this with apples or like cucumbers. You know, it's definitely sweet. You could even use this actually just as a vinaigrette on some salad with, you know, I feel like I want to put it with, you know, some sliced oranges and some goat cheese and some walnuts or something. It's kind of a nice citrusy vinaigrette. So in addition to using this as a dip, you could totally use this as a salad dressing, just kind of a quick, you know, quick, easy kind of citrusy dressing. So, okay. So I believe that is it. Let me see if I have any comments about the oils that I talked about before. No, I don't think so. Okay, yeah. So Allison, that's it for the cooking part. Oh, wait, I want to talk about the honey. So Clay's Bees is a Pleasance Valley farmer. So if you do join the Pleasance Valley Ag Association virtual open farm days, you might hear what he has going on. He has a bunch of hives at Soul Food Farm. And a couple years ago, I actually visited him and had the opportunity to put on the full bee suit and go out to the hives with him and just see his operation. And he's a great guy. So I highly recommend finding his honey. He can be at the Vacaville Farmers Market on Saturday mornings. And you know, you out there might also have your favorite honey purveyor. So I know there's quite a few of them out in Solano County, but I did want to highlight his honey and where you can find it.